You are listening to Inside IASB, a podcast series dedicated to informing and encouraging Illinois School Board members. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Isaac Warren. I am the Director of Digital Communications at the Illinois Association of School Boards. And with me today, I've got Jaime Barraza, who is the Board President of Township High School District 113. And today we're going to be talking about his recent attendance at the Board President's Academy, kind of what he learned, and discussing some of those networking opportunities that presented themselves at that event. So, Jaime, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to talk about this event. What motivated you to attend this year's Board President's Academy?
Yeah, so twofold. So one is I recently was elected by our board to fill the board president role, and the board president at that time sent me the information. I saw the information as well via the newsletter, so I thought it would be a great way to kick off the board presidency and learn a little bit more about the board president role and what it looks like, and just connect with other board presidents from across the state.
Cool. Was there anything in that newsletter that maybe stuck out to you or kind of caught your attention that made you want to let's learn about this more?
So I think one of the things that stuck out to me was the timing of it. So it was this past spring. So it was perfect as I had just taken on the role. So about a month into the role, the academy came on, and it was a great time.
When you were attending the event, what was I guess kind of jumping ahead to the end of the event, what has been the most valuable session, discussion, or takeaway?
There were quite a few. I think the first one that sticks out is the keynote. So the keynote presentation was our current sitting superintendent, and to hear from him about his experience with his board president and board presidents prior, and really hearing about his perspective from the seat of the superintendent was incredibly valuable to be able to really take a look at outside of our district, because I think, being in my second term on the board, we think about our superintendent in our district, but having that opportunity to hear from somebody still within the state, but outside of our community was incredibly valuable to hear some of the similarities, some of the things that were different. I think maybe different approaches and that diversity of experience. And that diversity of viewpoint was incredibly beneficial for me to be able to see and reflect on what are some things that I might want to think about as I look at building our relationship as a board with our superintendent.
Sure. Yeah. And when we talk about the joint annual conference, which is for everyone, we really like to talk about that same principle. There's so much diversity of how school districts are doing things across the state and how diverse those actions are. And being able to take that and really narrow it down to board president work, I think is really valuable.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think one of the things to highlight or to add on to is, although it was focused on the board president role, it wasn't specifically board presidents or exclusively board presidents. There were a number of aspiring board presidents that were there. So there was also that diverse perspective of newer board members, more veteran board members, current presidents, upcoming presidents. So there definitely was, to your point about the joint annual conference, a broad amount of experiences, but that laser focus on specifically that board president role, I think was key in the programming and in the discussion as well.
Sure. And kind of going off of that theme of networking, how has the opportunity to network with other current and future board presidents, like you were saying, impacted your experience at this event?
I really appreciated that opportunity. I think, to the point earlier about, sometimes within our district or within our community, we don't really have many opportunities to connect with other communities outside of our own. I really appreciated the chance just to say hello and connect and build some of those relationships for in the future when they might be needed. Having that opportunity to pick up a phone call and, from one board president to another, to be able to, either bounce some ideas or connect on a more individual level. I really appreciated the intentionality around the networking throughout the day. The time flew. It was such a quick day, but the intentional breaks to network and connect, I really appreciated.
That's excellent. And you talked earlier about you were looking forward to bringing some things back to your district. What ideas or strategies were you the most excited to bring back?
Well, one of the things is I appreciated the refresher on Robert's Rules and that intersection between Robert's Rules and OMA. And, there were some scenario-based activities that we did that I appreciated. I think those were one of the most important parts of it, some of that tactical piece. But then back to the keynote, thinking about the arc of the district and the goal setting and the relationship with the superintendent. I enjoyed having that time with that keynote, to connect with that keynote speaker, to connect and understand, his approach to his work with the board. And from a, what is the role of the president, and the framing of, how important of a role it is, and, the incredible duty that the rest of the board has bestowed on a board president.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up the refresher Robert's rules, because I think it's important to highlight that at this event, it wasn't all just brand new information every single time. It was like, hey, we know the basics. Let's kind of go over and refresh and make sure that we're understanding how these interact with other aspects of board work. Like you said, OMA, those intersections are really important, because I mean, OMA probably trumps most of the time if there's ever an issue, but it's just good to get a refresher of like, oh yeah, this is just, and it's just like another opportunity to take a bird's eye view kind of away from the board work, if that makes sense.
So I think one of the pieces that was really powerful also was that it wasn't all, you know, looking at sort of like deeper thinking, broader long range thinking around, goal setting and district direction. It also wasn't all short term, very tactical, OMA and Robert's rules. It was a very nice mix of both. So while at one point we were having discussions about, the direction of a district, at another moment we were having, what would you do if blank? So that diversity of experience, I think, made the time go by incredibly quickly and was super valuable.
Yeah, oh, that's really good to hear. And I guess kind of compared to maybe other professional opportunities that you've attended, what would you say makes an event like the Board President's Academy unique?
The most unique part of it is that focus on the board president's role, and everything that we talked about was in service of the board president role. And I think that was, I would say, the number one unique component. It sounds obvious, but when you think about other professional learning opportunities, I don't know that there are many that are, specific to the role here in Illinois. And then I would say the other piece, almost a byproduct of that, is the demystifying of the role. So being able to connect with other board presidents and hear about their experiences, hear about, when they started, how they started, things that they might be working through in their district or have worked through in their district, as well as being able to share some of the things that we've worked through in our district.
What would you say, well, during your time at the Board President's Academy, what was a conversation you had that reinforced your thinking about board leadership?
So we've touched upon this a little bit, but it was the informal conversations with the table mates. I had a great table, and interestingly, it was a newer board member who was thinking about a presidency in the next few years, the current president, and one of the administrators in the district who was also a board member in the state. So I thought that was interesting. But being able to have their perspectives, along with a veteran board member who had never been a board president, was there. So just hearing about their different roles and hearing about, across the state with their communities, some of the issues that they were facing, similar to what we might be facing, and understanding those similarities, some of those differences. But I think it really was walking away, having had that opportunity to reflect on, where we are as a community, where we are as a district, where we are as a state, and, all the great things that we have going on, and how we, take challenges and face them head on.
Yeah, and that's really cool to hear how much diversity was you just at your own table. And I'm sure there's a lot of diversity at that event altogether, but it's just really cool that even at your own table, there was just there are different people at so many different stages in their board presidency role. But like, that just sounds like amazing opportunities there.
Yeah, and I will say there was also a sense of community in the room. Back to the previous question about something that's unique to board presidency, there was that unique feeling in the room of the board presidency and the heft of the board presidency and how important that is. That sort of brought the whole room together. So it wasn't I didn't feel like, having gone to this first academy, that I was, the only first one. And I felt like, there were plenty of us that it was our first one, and it was a very welcoming environment.
Sure. I mean, would it be fair to say it was kind of like a sense of camaraderie, and the idea that you're all there for the same purpose, kind of trying to do the same role, And in that way, you're kind of like, all right, we're all here together to learn together for all of our board's benefit. Let's just kind of let's like work together in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Jaime, my last question for you then would be, if you were going to encourage another board member, maybe seeking to be a board president or even the current board president, to attend the next academy, what would you tell them about the value of this event? How would you encourage them to attend?
Well, to start, I'm definitely going to be encouraging a few fellow board members to attend the next session. I think one of the things that I learned from the previous board president was, always look at, succession planning and who might be next, and how do you build the board and build the leadership among the board, so that, there is always, someone else who can step into that board presidency space if needed. So I would say that was one of the biggest pieces of values, was in that demystifying of the board presidency. I think it would be powerful for anybody even considering it, whether they have aspirations to become a board president or they don't, but they plan on sticking around on the board. They may be called into a leadership role at some point. I feel like it was a nice balance while it was board president specific. If you weren't a board president, you still would have found incredible value in understanding the role, whether you're currently in it or not. I would say the value was in that reflection time, in connecting with other board members, reflecting on our own community, reflecting on what other communities are grappling with as well. And then the last one was, I would say, the Q&A with the current board presidents. I think that was probably one of my other top moments of the academy, and being able to hear directly from a group of current board presidents, full candor, what they're going through and what they have been going through. And I think there was one who said, if you're wondering what we're going through, just Google my district name. And sure enough, we Googled the district name. And I think we always, as school boards, think about, what might happen in the media, what might come out, and how's the media involved or not involved. And there is, in public education, that very public display of, everything that happens in a district. And hearing from board presidents who have gone through, and we're of course no strangers to having the media in our district as well, how others react and work with the media when there is a situation at the district, which inevitably there will be.
Yeah, this is a lot of valuable learning opportunities here at the Board Presidents Academy, and we look forward to offering it again. And hopefully we'll have some repeat attendees and some new faces coming to these. Like you said, yeah, it's just a great opportunity for future, current, past board presidents alike. So, Jaime, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience with our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and thank you for your dedicated volunteer service to public education. If you would like to stay up to date with future episodes, please consider following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or your platform of choice. Have a comment or question? We welcome listener feedback and invite you to send us an email at communications@iasb.com. Thank you.